In the IT field, women make up about 25% of all tech jobs. My guest today, Lucy and Stephine, has sought out to help close the gap between men and women in the IT field, literally. Recognizing this disparity, they started a new technology course aimed at young women aged 16 to 18 based in Lincolnshire of the UK. They also have a podcast in which they discuss these issues and topics weekly called Athena Tech Talks. Together, they formed the dynamic duo Athena W.I.T. I brought them on today to discuss women in IT and also imposter syndrome. Welcome to the 24-Hour Boss Podcast. This is the show where we talk about business, online marketing, and side hustles. You ready to dive into it? Let's talk about it. Lucy and Stephine, welcome to the 24-Hour Boss Podcast.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
We're happy to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you both here from the UK, which is great. And just want to bring you two ladies on to get your insight on this women in tech and also the imposter syndrome, which I know y'all spoke about this a couple of episodes ago on your podcast. I thought it was very interesting because I had that same thought in regard to some of the things you were talking about. And so, but that's why I wanted to bring them on today. And just for our audience, just to hear from a woman's perspective with women in tech, because I know I'm not a woman, of course, but I know there are different women that deal with different issues when it comes to technology. And so I thought it would be a very positive thing to bring y'all on to kind of maybe help encourage women that may be trying to get in the tech field or maybe dealing with some of the same things that you both have dealt with as you climb the ladder in your different fields of perspective. So again, thanks again for coming on. And so let's go ahead and get into this. And so my first thing that I want to, I guess, throw at you both is this question about what is your definition of brave? But to answer it, I want you to first listen to this small little portion from Reshma Shujani, she's the founder and CEO of Girls Who Code, and she spoke with Google. And I saw this and I thought it was interesting. And so I wanted to just get y'all's take on it. So we're going to listen to just a little portion of what she had to say in regard to a woman being brave. So I just want y'all to listen to this. All right.
Help us with a definition. You have said bravery will set us free. But can you kick us off?
Can y'all hear that okay?
Definition of bravery?
Yeah.
So bravery to me, it's not dragon slaying, right? It's not saving a baby from a burning building. Bravery is about joy. Joy to do the things that you want to do. Perfect example of this is basically a fourth grader named Ainsley. So Ainsley lives in North Carolina, and it was Princess Week at her school. So Ainsley shows up dressed like a hot dog, right? Bravery to me means going to Princess Week like a hot dog.
I also forgot something.
Okay, so I hope you could hear that. So she talks about the little girl who at Princess Week at her school, she shows up to her school for Princess Week. Instead of showing up as a princess, she shows up as a hot dog. And so Miss Reshma says to her, this is bravery. And of course, she had a book that she wrote too, speaking, saying that women should not try to be perfect. I think her book is called Brave, Not Perfect. And so I guess, that kind of centers along that. And so I guess my question for you both is in regard to when you look at how, you have come into your IT field and where you felt where you maybe started in your IT field. And so maybe just give your thoughts on that type of bravery, because I know, and even for myself as a man, I see that little children, they have a lot of bravery. They're not worried about who's going to talk about them. They're not worried about, how they show up, how they look, what they say. And so that's what Reshma states as her definition of bravery. So maybe, you two, it doesn't matter who goes first, but what are y'all thoughts on that? Bravery.
I mean, I'll go first if you want me to.
Sure, go ahead.
So I think I love that definition of it. And I think I've always said with changing the gap, the like disparity between men and women in tech. It's about these women that aren't afraid to push boundaries and maybe go towards those kind of careers that, or offices that don't have women in there. And because once they're there, then other women will see them and so feel comfortable to join them in that field or in that office or that
Someone's
company.
got to be the first.
Yeah, someone's got to be the first. So that kind of goes back to the definition of bravery, in that they aren't afraid to push those boundaries and change the rules to suit them.
Yeah. I think with the question on its own, when you first asked it, my sort of initial thought was bravery to me is doing the right thing, even when it's hard and even when it's scary. And I think that can even filter down the right thing to you. Like the little girl and the hot dog, to her, that was the right decision. To lots of people, it wouldn't have been. But it's the same thing as the other little girls that picked maybe a different princess outfit. That may have been brave to them as well. So it's sort of finding out your own truth and going, what's brave for you, and following it. And that's sometimes the hardest thing to do, and not sort of following what people tell you is correct. Pushing back.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So let me ask you both this. So in regard to, like, I guess maybe getting into the IT field, did you, I'm sure there were some second guesses or, like, I don't know, but was there, I'm pretty sure there was something like you just said, Stephine, finding your own truth. So was there a moment where you felt that, I want to do this, but maybe I got to show some bravery and just go for it? Because, of course, with this conversation, of course, we know that. And I'll ask that in a moment. In regard to men, there is a big disparity with men and women in IT. So
Yeah.
did you feel like the jump into IT was, maybe that's a brave move? Did y'all feel that?
It was, for me personally, it was terrifying because I was coming from a completely different career choice. I was in a state agency, and really loved my job, but it was a very high stress, very demanding job. And at the time, I had a young son. So I knew I wanted to go into something else. IT was something I always enjoyed when I was at school. Um, at my old job, I was always sort of jokingly called in-house IT. I think that says more about their lack of IT than it did my sort of specialize in it. And I was actually contacted by a recruiter about the position in IT, and it was a really hard decision for me because it was one of those sort of follow your instincts moment where I thought everything seems to be pushing towards this job, but it's a complete change. There's so many risks involved with taking it. There was a salary cut. There was lots of things that I had to consider, but luckily I was very brave. I took the jump, and I've never regretted it a day since.
Yeah,
Right.
I think maybe mine isn't as dramatic as like changing complete career fields.
It's just
But
me.
I think like with mine was like my latest job move. So I've always had support job roles because that was what I kind of fell into when I first joined the IT career. And if anyone's in the IT world, they know that once you're kind of in your little niche, then it's very hard to get out of that almost. But this opportunity came up and they were like, well, it came up twice actually. I didn't go for it the first time. And then I went for it the second time because I was like, actually, do you know what? No, I can do that. Like, I can prove it to myself. So then it was taking that jump and doing it and almost going to a completely different area of IT.
And being the first female in her team.
Yeah, they were all called Tommy. It was a bit depressing.
Wow.
So you broke the mold.
Yeah. They wouldn't let me change the team name, though. I was quite upset.
Well, great job. So, like, I guess where you're both at now. So you've made that jump, right? You're in IT now. So how do you feel like where you are now, and maybe, I don't know, maybe opportunities that may be on the horizon, or maybe different areas of IT? Because IT is, it's there's so many different areas you can go to IT. It's not going anywhere. But so how do y'all feel now? Now that you've made that jump, how do you feel?
I mean, I think like my experience of it is that I it's kind of the world's my oyster almost, in that now I have these skills of, I guess it's just programming at the core of it. Obviously, there's extra things that I do day in, day out that are specialized. But at the core of it, I do have C# knowledge. I have PowerShell knowledge. Like, there's loads of stuff there that is transferable. And like you say, IT is not going anywhere. So I know that my job, if I don't have it at this place, I'll have it somewhere else. And I can transfer them skills. So the world's my oyster, really.
Mine's is slightly different. We're taking the leap into IT. I sort of then merged a little bit, and I'm now in like a training role. So although I'm still involved with it, I train on sort of the software side of things. So I'm not directly involved. I mean, I've never been a coder, so I'm not directly involved in that side. But I really enjoy the fact that I get to sort of be at the heart of introducing new people into where we work, and always keeping up to date with how things are changing, because I have to kind of know a little bit of everything. So it's interesting to see how often things change, but also for me, in the specific company that we work at, when I started, there were very few females. I think sort of 5 or 6 females, and in a very short space of time, we've like, I think, nearly tripled that, the amount of people that we had. And when I started as well, there were no female developers at all. And they're slowly merging in and taking over from the inside.
We now have 3.
Exactly. But it's 3 more than what there was beforehand. So it's quite sort of motivating for me to see that, to see the sort of females taking over the different areas and having an opportunity to impact that and get new people into the roles and sort of coach them to get the confidence to go for it, ideally.
So that's a direct reflection of Athena W.I.T, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys are making a lot of noise down there and encouraging women. So yeah,
we're trying.
Yeah, that's the dream anyway.
All right. So in regards to women in tech, which it sounds like you're seeing more of it now, and even here in the States, in the U.S., there are more women getting in tech. I know there is a group here. I think we even have one locally in my area, Women Who Code. So this, like, it's more of it. I'm hearing more of it. But my question in regard to women and men in the disparity, what do you think is the reason for it being more or fewer women in technology versus men?
So, I mean, we kind of did touch a bit of this on our podcast the other week, because it's one of them things that I guess it's easy for us to sit here and say, yes, there's definitely a thing, but there's definitely an issue. But when you look at why, it actually comes down to the psychology side of things a little bit more, because there's stuff like the perception of it being a male-dominated industry. And so kind of a byproduct of that is that there's going to be less opportunities for you to get promotions. There's going to be an issue with your pay, stuff like that, that actually stops people from, or stops women from pursuing those careers.
I think that's kind of really getting to the heart of Athena, though, isn't it? That's the reason we were really passionate about this to begin with, is it's not the employment side of things. I think there's a really widespread misconception that the problem with less females in STEM is that they're not getting the jobs and they're not being hired, and that men are being hired over women. And I genuinely don't believe that that's the problem at all. I entirely believe it's people aren't going for the jobs because they're never taking the courses and they're never getting the skill set or the degrees or whatever it takes at that really, really early stage. And when we were going to schools and things and we were talking to different age groups, we noticed like this really strange shift where from about year 9, which is like, say, 14, 15-year-olds, 13, 14-year-olds, anything prior to that, it's a very even split of children that are interested in lots and lots of lessons. I imagine it's because they're still really wide open to anything they want to do. They don't know what they want fully yet, so they're fully available to all bits of information. And then when it got just past that age group, the amount of young girls that were coming up to speak to us about any tech jobs was genuinely dropped to like 2% of what we were speaking to. Out of 100 people that day would get one or two females that would come up to us, and we didn't understand why. So that's what we're trying to find sort of more information about and educate that sort of age range and make sure they know there are some amazing jobs out there that they can partake in and they can sort of help fight the cause, hopefully.
Okay, so do you? It sounds like from what you have, I guess, found out so far, it doesn't seem that the jobs aren't available for women, or that they are not being refused, but it's more so maybe they're just, like you said, not taking the courses, not, I don't know, maybe they haven't even considered it, I guess.
Yeah.
Just, and I heard Lucy say it's kind of maybe the psychology thing of it, where you think maybe some women just, maybe that I guess that idea hasn't opened up to them to actually consider that. But is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think so. And I think like with my side of things, if it wasn't for like people in my life who were very like open about the opportunities that were there in the tech field or were working in the tech field already, I don't think even I would have gone for a tech job. But IT was the only subject I was good at. So it was like one of them things that I think I would have been put off it if it wasn't for people that were telling me, actually, no, this is a good path for you and this is what you can do once you're in that job, sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's definitely a psychological thing for me anyway.
I think that there's a lot, we have done a lot of research, to be honest, and we have looked into it quite a lot. And I think there's a lot to be said about how I say this all the time as a sweeping statement. I'm not saying this is everybody, but it's more of the majority of women feel that it's not a career that develops a lot in regards to society and gives back a lot. And apparently, scientifically, women seek out those sorts of roles. That's why we're drawn to being teachers and nurses, and very much the roles that are entirely about giving back and providing a service. So this is where the whole education side of things comes in, because there's so much that can be done with IT and STEM as a whole, sorry, that's entirely based around sort of developing medicine and apps that can help people and save lives. And it's just sort of just educating young girls about that side of STEM, because I feel as if people knew more about that side, it might provoke more interest in it. Hopefully, I think that's what's missing. That's the little bit that we need to get out there more.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's something we've spoken about at length, like on the podcast and just as talking, was like, okay, well, it's that education side of things of like, look at these amazing people who have changed the world with their
Yeah.
like if it wasn't for the scientists and doing the STEM stuff, we wouldn't have a vaccination for COVID right now.
Exactly.
Like, so it's that sort of education about that side of things.
I think as well, Brian, when you were talking about your wife, it's one of those industries, you will know this yourself, that it changes so quickly. And we do have children and we do take at least 9 months off of work a lot of the time. There'll be at least normally once in your lifetime where that will happen. And 9 months out of an industry that's IT related that moves at that fast pace is really scary to go back into. And I do feel that sometimes that plays a part in maybe not women not getting into it, but possibly not returning to IT and not returning to tech because they feel that they can't ever get back that pace or fill in the blanks of what they've missed while they've had time out. And possibly their bosses could feel that way too. Well, maybe there is some sort of gender stereotypical where they're thinking, well, the females will eventually have children and they'll eventually leave and then they'll fall behind. And that could possibly be playing a part as well. I don't want to call anyone out because it might not, but you never know.
That's true. That's a good point, though. That women that do have children, they're out 9 months. So it's like there's a lot of thoughts that go through their minds, like, hey, do I go back into this way? Of course, for my wife, I have 4 children, by the way. So she's done that 4 times, right? So that is a
Jeepers.
lot to, yeah, that is a lot to, that's a lot to take in and to consider, and just to, after, having, of course, your child, then of course, you got the other things that come into play, just trying to raise your child, taking care of your
Childcare.
child care. So all of these things. So there's a million different thoughts that I'm sure that many women think of that I wouldn't have to think of, right? So because I don't have to, of course, go through the 9 months. And I say, of course, myself, there's like, I think that women are very strong, because I can't have a baby. I mean, there's no way, I don't know what I'll do if I had to have a baby, but for a woman to actually to do this, have a baby after 9 months, and then even to be able to go back into a career field. I mean, that's great in itself, just thinking about it. But I think
We're superheroes.
oh yes,
That's what it is.
superheroes. That's right, superheroes. Yes, women are superheroes, definitely. But I think that's great, and I think that's a great point that you both make in regards to that. And I'm hoping that maybe some women that are listening to this are actually, just this kind of resonates with them, and that's actually what this conversation is about. And so, in regard to that, I think we can talk about Athena W.I.T. And so tell our audience, because that's kind of what inspired you both to kind of go into this and maybe educate women and just talk about these conversations. So tell our audience more about Athena W.I.T. and how are you using this to help encourage more women to get into the tech industry?
Yeah, so I guess Athena was always kind of my baby, in like that it was something that I've always wanted to do. I've always known that I wanted to give back to my community of like the women in tech, and how I was kind of like throwing ideas around about how I could do that. And like Stephine said, when we were going into schools with our company and talking to the girls, there was a clear cutoff of, right, okay, I don't want to be in IT anymore. So I always knew that when I was that age, if I had somewhere to go that I could learn these skills in a practical way that will also show me how they can be applied to different jobs, and kind of spark that creativity side of things, that I would have gone to something like that. But the problem is where we live. Obviously, it's got a lot better now. But if I was looking for a course like that, I would have had to travel like 3 hours, I think it is, to the nearest place where it was, or I'd have to go to London. So, which is quite a long way from us. It's not like a place that I can go to in an evening. And at 16, there's no chance that I'd do that by myself. But what we kind of want to do with Athena, and what we are doing, is we're targeting the girls that are 16 to 18. So in our kind of school system, that's right before they are going off to university or college. So what we are trying to do with that is show them that it's not just a career in tech that these skills are going to help, but if they own their own business, they know how to create a website, or they know how to set up emails, and they can show those skills off to potential employers. And what we also want to do is teach them skills like writing CVs and interviewing well for a job, things that kind of maybe you wouldn't get in a normal school environment, all while creating this little community of young women who are there to support each other. So while we're teaching them the basics of like HTML, CSS, Python, we're also teaching them how to rely on each other. So asking each other's questions, asking them about how to cope through university, or how to cope with this job interview that they're going for, even how to cope with imposter syndrome, little things like that they can then fall back on later on in life. So they have these friends that are kind of in a work capacity there to help them. through their career. So yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Stephine.
I don't think there's anything I can
If
add to that.
Covered it. That's covered it. There we go.
I concur.
So yeah, with like me bringing Stephine on, so her kind of area of this is obviously she's a training manager, so she's very good at the personal skills. So I'm the techie
You'll
side
make me
of
blush.
Things, and then yeah, and then
she's blushing, everyone. She's blushing.
Yeah, it's easy to do. she's like that very pale complexion. So, but yeah, so it's so yeah, she's bringing that kind of personal side of things, the personal skills, the training side, and then I'm just there with all my tech knowledge.
Well, that's good, because I mean, you need both of that, those things in IT. The message of IT has to be communicated. And I think that's great too, that you're also trying to teach the young ladies about interview skills, and like you said, even imposter syndrome, because even for men, women, whoever, you can have all the tech skills in the world, but if you don't know how to interview properly, or if you don't know how to answer those questions, if you're not prepared for those challenges, it could be very daunting to go into an interview and these people are throwing all these questions at you, and you just feel you feel like you are a fraud. But it's not the case.
Yeah.
You got all these skills that you've learned. So I think kudos to you both for, even coming up with this idea and seeing that, and just wanting to help young ladies or young girls to, overcome these challenges that they may face. So I say kudos to you both for that. And I thought that was very unique. And actually, I think that's what kind of drawed me actually to I guess to your site and to like what you're doing. Of course, I think, what was it? I think maybe you started following me. And then when I looked to see who was following me, I said, oh, wow, they have a podcast. Of course, I'm always interested when I see someone has a podcast. So it was like, oh, wow, they have a podcast. And very, very interesting that they're talking about women in tech. I love technology. So, hey, and so here we are. Yeah, it was fate. What do you know? Look at us. Now we're together on a podcast, right? And so, but kudos to you both for coming up with that. So let me ask you this in regard to Athena. What has like the response been like in regard to Athena? Are y'all seeing like some positive response from young ladies, men, or whoever? What's the response been?
It's been overwhelming, to be honest.
Yes.
We kind of started it as like, I suppose to liken it to like kids in a school ground of, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Wouldn't this be really fun? We obviously like talking to each other as well. So it was an excuse. And we started the Athena stuff, and obviously Lucy developed the course and stuff like that. And it kind of really grew because we did like I suppose like an open talking thing at our place of work of, hey, come along and listen to us for an hour. We're just going to talk about what we've been working on. And lots of people turned up, which was a shock in itself because we were fully prepared to just talk to ourselves.
Which we do normally.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And this is prior to the podcast. But it was actually from that, which is where the podcast itself specifically came, because loads of people were like, you guys, you should definitely do that. We'd listen to you. And we're like, okay, we'll do that. But not just that side of it. Some of the topics that we've raised, such as like imposter syndrome and stuff, the amount of people who have reached out to us, a lot of men, to be honest, more than women.
Like me. I was one that reached out.
You won. See, I'm not lying. And they reached out and said, oh my God, that really struck a nerve with me. And I totally, fully understood what you were on about. And it's actually made me realize something about myself. But also generally about Athena itself. A lot of people just reaching out saying, this idea is amazing. How can we help? What can we do to help you along? Is there anything that we can help you with? Can we provide? Can we help on the classes? Can we give you anything to get you going? And just sort of really positive feedback. And all of our family as well are really supportive, with like sharing things, sharing posts on social media. And my dad sends everything to everybody. And we recently had a newspaper article as well, that sort of detailed what we've been creating, and that's been posted all over social media as well.
Yeah, I think that's the only place that we've ever had anything negative as well. Like, it got put on like a big forum, and this guy commented and he was like, well, what about the boys? They're just kind of being put to the sidelines, like, oh, it's so much for
gender equality.
Yeah, gender equality.
Do boys not want to learn coding? Like,
yeah, and
excuse me, sir, you are missing the point.
Yeah, and I think with stuff like that, and I was actually like talking to my partner about it, because I was like, you're a guy, what do you think? Like, do you think that? Like, having a very open and honest conversation with him, and we both were discussing it, and we were saying, well, the only reason that he doesn't understand it is because he's not had that conversation with us of like, look, this is from our point of view as women in tech. There aren't many people, so we need to do something about it. It's not that the boys don't need it, because they need to learn coding too, but they're doing it naturally. So
they're finding their own way. They don't need the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, we are here to feed that curiosity in the women's side of things and teach them how to do stuff. And I think that's something that we've kind of changed our mindset with our partners even. It's like, from us doing this and having those open conversations with them, it's changed their minds, and it's changed our families' minds and things, because it's that education side of things that we're trying to push. And once we have those conversations, then everything's positive from there on in. And it's brilliant, supportive.
So apart from that one guy, it's been really positive.
But yeah, that's what happens when you open it up to the whole world. Yeah. Like, you're going to get these things.
He'll learn, it's fine.
Yeah.
He'll find his own way. The right path.
He'll get it. But yeah, I was just curious to know just the response, because I'm pretty sure that, and I thought that, yeah, I'm sure you got some very positive response, because it's a very definitely a conversation that needs to be had. And so with y'all tackling it, of course, like I said, I know it's going to help other women, because I'm sure they deal with the same thing. And of course, you all of our perspectives are different. We all come from different backgrounds. So everybody's going to have a different view of things. But at the same time, the disparity is there. So you do know it. So once you get the education out there, and once we get the truth and all the facts and all that stuff, and then these conversations like we're having today, they can be had. And of course, that can help to figure out, okay, which direction somebody needs to go. So again, kudos to you both for doing this. And you just never know where this is going to go. It starts as an idea, but who knows? You two ladies may be become very famous and popular. Who knows? I see great things with Athena down the road. So, all right. So, what suggestions could you offer for women who want to start a career in technology?
I guess going back to the whole be both thing, it's like, don't be afraid to step outside of what your friends are saying of like, oh, IT is not cool, it's just full of nerds. Like, yeah, it might be full of nerds, but they're cool nerds. They're now my friends.
That's right.
Like,
cool nerds.
Like, yeah. And it's like, who do I go to when I need a computer fixing? Now I know. Like, one of them things, like, it's actually, I think, don't be afraid to just go and do it, or try it out. Try even just going to a local club or something to try it out. And then apart from that, just reach out to people who are already in the tech career. Have a support network that you can talk to. I think one of my biggest things was I was always afraid to talk to people that are in the career, because it was like, wow, what if they like know that I am struggling with this, or like that I'm thinking these things. But actually, once you talk to them, they're like, oh yeah, I went through that. Like, this is what you do. And like, maybe this is going to be a really hard problem that you're going to come up against, but you can get through it. I'm proof of it. So that combination of the two, I think, is a real winner.
Yeah. I think having an open mind as well, because there's so many more jobs in technology than people are aware of. So there's not just coders. There's a lot different types of titles that you can have in technology. One thing I say to my son all the time is that technology is the future. And if it's something that you can get interested in, then in my opinion, I feel that you'd be set for life. So don't just sort of be narrow-minded of, well, I don't know code, so I can't have anything to do with technology, because that is not it by any stretch of the imagination. There are hundreds of people that are working in tech that are not coders. Hundreds of thousands of people, not just hundreds. So that would be my advice.
Well said. I like that. Just go for it. And yes, the technology field is wide open for everyone, definitely for women as well. And so, this conversation is just about that, just to let women know that, hey, you know what the sky's the limit, basically, in what you want to do. And no, it's not just about coders. There's so many different things you can do in the IT field. And like Lucy said, I think you just got to just be a little brave and put the fears aside and just go for it. So, well said. I really enjoyed those comments in regard to that. And so in regards to fear, now we're going to jump into this imposter syndrome, which I know y'all talked about this previously, but I wanted to just address it with you both on my podcast, just to get your thoughts and just for our audience to hear it. And so I'm just going to read this definition of imposter syndrome and just get your thoughts. Of course, it involves feelings of self-doubt and personal incompetence that persist despite having external evidence of your education, experience, and accomplishments. You feel like a fraud and you're afraid you'll be exposed. So basically, imposter syndrome, you have all the skills. You have it. Maybe you got a degree or, you have all this experience, but for whatever reason, you feel like a fraud and that you're going to be exposed.
Yep.
So it's basically a feeling. And so, in regards to you both, how has imposter syndrome affected you and maybe your journey of where you are today?
I mean, for me, it's made it so much harder just to get to where I am. As someone who didn't come through the normal educational channels, which you hear me talk a lot about on the podcast, I didn't have the degree. I didn't have my A levels when I left school. So I was kind of going on some of the basic qualifications that I needed to even get an apprenticeship. I'm now going through a process where I'm getting a degree. But when I was going for different jobs and things, it was very much I'm not qualified for that. But in reality, it was, well, actually, I've got experience of working in the actual job and doing the job. But for me, I didn't feel qualified because I didn't have that piece of paper that said I was qualified. And so it's made it a lot harder to make decisions to put me to where I am now. And if it wasn't for the people telling me, no, you are qualified, stop being stupid, like go for it, I wouldn't have done it. And I probably would still be in the same place where I was 7 years ago. But it's kind of getting over that fear of being a fraud, and that has led me to get to here. Kind of similar to Stephane's experience of it a little bit, but
I think the really interesting thing about imposter syndrome is that it attacks people in very different ways. And like Lucy said, hers is like really sort of bog standard. This is like basically what you just read out a second ago, Brian. It's she had all of the proof that showed that she could do the job, but constantly sort of questioned herself over it.
Yeah.
Mine's been slightly different in the sense of I didn't know what imposter syndrome was until I went to a local women in tech event, oddly enough. And a woman was doing a talk on it, and I was sat there thinking, oh my God, it's not just me. But it's never, I'm slightly different. It's never actually held me back that much. I sort of always chose to push myself because of the way that my dad had brought me up and said things to me and sort of forced me into scary situations when I was afraid of doing wrong. For me, it's more of been a living with a constant state of anxiety and just always thinking, it's like the fear of being caught for me personally. It's just every decision I make, I'm constantly on the edge of, is this the thing that I'm going to do that's going to show everybody I don't know what I'm doing? So it's interesting because it's the same thing that's causing these feelings, but kind of acts differently in different people. So for me, it hasn't held me back a great deal, I don't think. It's just caused a lot of extra stress that's unnecessary. Because at the end of the day, I haven't yet been caught. I mean, there's still time, but I'm still surviving. So, so it could have all just been wasted energy, wasted negative energy for no reason.
That's yeah, that's basically what it is, right? Just wasted energy. And so yeah, I mean I have those same sentiments, and it seems that, like you said, Lucy, it's different for everyone who deals with it. And like yourselves, I didn't actually know the exact definition. Now, I knew about the actual feelings, but I didn't know the actual definition either until I think I was watching some video, and they started talking about it on this YouTube video I was watching, and I was like, that's exactly how I feel sometimes, you know. And it's like, wow, why do this? And even I can say to myself, and maybe I can ask you, like, even doing this podcast, I'm sure you probably experienced imposter syndrome. Like, why is anybody going to listen to this, or why would
Yeah.
anybody listen to us? And it's basically just it's fear that just basically kind of, it, like you said, it's different, but it can hold you back. And for myself, I experienced it too. It's like for years I thought, man, I need to do this, or I want to do this, because I've done quite a bit of stuff in tech. I mean, I've done web design. I've done I'm not a coder, but I've kind of maybe like you, Lucy, I've kind of just come up just being like self-taught and just learn stuff through videos and practice and experience. And so I've done a lot of that stuff, but I don't have the actual paper to prove it. And so it's like, you know, people just wonder, yeah, do you really have these skills? But yeah, I've done it. So yeah, it's definitely a monster that needs to be dealt with, the imposter syndrome. And so we just want to put him in his place in regards to that.
Yeah.
But that's good to hear your thoughts on that. And so what would y'all suggest, like maybe some solutions for some women or people who are dealing with it to overcome imposter syndrome?
Find a mentor or a buddy or a friend or a community that you can talk to about these feelings. That is my number one advice. If you do anything,
Like
find
Athena.
someone to speak to. Yes, like Athena, like
Yeah.
us, like two strangers in the UK. Reach out, speak to us. Because I know that we help each other a lot. And seeing Lucy grow and change so much in like the last 18 months, because she's really sort of pushed past those imposter syndrome feelings. Otherwise, Athena would have never been created because of that
Very
constant
true.
fear. So having someone, whether it be a friend or family member or a community of like-minded people, just speak about the problems, speak about what's dragging you down.
Yeah, I think adding on to that, it's like, so me and Stephine talk almost daily in our chat. There is something about, oh my God, I don't think I can do this, or I'm not like
They're going to find
talented
out.
enough to do this. Yeah, they're going to find out. Like, I've got a new training person today. Like, what if they realize that they're better than me? Like, every single day there is something like that. But by being very open with each other about it, it's me to turn around, or Stephine to turn around and say, no, you've got this. You're going to be fine. Like,
Stop being ridiculous.
You know more than, yeah, it's like,
put your big girl pants on. And
yeah. It's like, even like, so I kind of do some of the training for you, don't I? Like with the SQL side of things. And like, you'll ask me something, I'm like, you know it. Why are you asking me? Like, you know this. Like, you've got this. And so like, there have been times where we've just withheld information from each other because we've just like, you do know this, so I'm not going to tell you. Like,
it's a friendship based on bullying and motivation, but it works really well.
I'm not mean.
Well, cool. That's good to know. And I know there are I'm sure when somebody hears this, this is going to resonate with them. Like when I heard your podcast episode when you talked about basically having a title, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, wow, what is this? But yeah, it's definitely something I'm sure people will resonate with and hopefully be able to overcome. And hopefully, this conversation can help them, which, like I said, I reached out to you guys when you talked about it. So I know this is a conversation that needs to be had because I know there are other people that'll deal with it. And so, hey, thank you all for those great thoughts. Okay, so I have some surprise questions for you both. They're unrelated. Yes.
Let's go.
They are unrelated to anything in IT, but they're very easy, so you should be able to answer these, right? All right, so first question is what is like one of your favorite restaurants to eat at there in the UK?
Lucy?
Ooh.
Mine is any Indian restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's like Indian food? So is that like one of your favorite foods, Indian food?
There's a local one near me that I go to. There's a lot of bad ones, but there's a really nice local one that I travel an extra sort of 5 miles to get specifically.
I mean, if you had asked me when I was like 10, it would have been like hands down McDonald's. Like every day, them chicken nuggets. But now I'm not so sure. Like now maybe it's like a Wagamama's or something. So I think maybe that one's a good shout.
What was that?
Wagamama's.
Wagamama.
So it's like
what kind of food is that?
Japanese, yeah. It's like you only get chopsticks. Like that's the only cutlery that they supply.
Noodles.
So
that
you
sort
better
of thing.
be good at it. Yeah, noodles.
Okay. All right. What about desserts? Like what's a favorite dessert that you like to eat?
Ooh, rhubarb crumble.
Who? What?
Oh, horrible.
Oh no, that's a classic. Stop it.
Rhubarb crumble. Are you 85?
What is that?
Yes.
Rhubarb crumble is like a little bit like it's like rhubarb soaked, and then you have flour and brown sugar on top, and then put under the oven. So it's a bit like it's a little bit like an apple pie, but with a crumble top and rhubarb.
Okay. What is rhubarb?
I'm just very British.
Rhubarb is a root fruit.
Okay.
Root fruit.
It's like it looks like celery but pink.
Okay.
Is that inaccurate? It's horrible.
It must be very British.
It's an awful
It's a very British
choice.
dessert.
Okay.
No, it's not.
I do a lot of baking, and I love to bake and I love to cook. Yes.
Okay,
like,
so what do you
all
bake?
The time.
What do you like to bake? What's one of your favorites?
I love my favorite recipe. That's a family favorite. Is something called caramel cookie cups, which is basically like a cookie but in a muffin shape, filled with caramel. So you warm it up. And then you have cold ice cream. And it's like a warm, gooey, stuffed caramel cookie with ice cream. Okay. It's so much better than rhubarb crumble.
No, rhubarb crumble is an absolute classic, and you can fight me on it.
Maybe those can be overnighted, maybe to the US. Maybe we could try.
We'll have a look.
Yeah, definitely. I'll try.
Okay. All right. So next question: who has the better? I know over there, I'm sure they say football. Who has the better football team, the UK or the US?
Oh, neither.
Neither.
Can I say Ireland?
No. So for your listeners, just so everyone's caught up, Stephane's Irish. She is very proudly Irish, and when it comes down, so we're not really football supporters as much, or soccer supporters.
Okay.
No.
But
I'd say
we
UK.
are both into rugby. We're both into our rugby, and we have very much argued in the office about who has the better rugby team, Ireland or England.
Okay, so y'all more rugby fans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Maybe in the next episode we can talk about rugby.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
All right. So last surprise question. Team Apple or Team Samsung?
Samsung.
Well, all right.
Easy.
See, I knew that's why we connect, because you're both Samsung.
Yeah, I've got mine.
I think that people that are a fan of apples are like an undiscovered cult.
Ooh.
It always surprises me as well when there's like an IT person with an apple. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
wait. Like, hold on a minute. What's going on?
It's a brand, not a product.
Strong feelings,
Nice. All right.
Stephine.
I'm sure a lot of my Apple listeners are gonna love those comments about their phone.
But each to their own.
That's right. To each his own. So, but yes, I'm right there with you, Samsung, Team Samsung. All right. So, next question. If any of you, or if you were to write a book, what would be the name of the title?
I have an answer for
Go
this
on.
that Lucy didn't want me to say. Basically, my answer would be sarcastic. Me? Never. And it's because I am very well known for being incredibly sarcastic all the
Too
time.
sarcastic.
Yeah. So that would be mine. Or
Nice.
that's not my name, because everybody gets my name wrong. So they're my two options.
Yes, I did get your name wrong. So yes, I can.
It's a common thing.
I like that. I like that. That other book though. Sarcastic. Yeah. Not me.
Yep.
Yeah. That's nice. What about you, Lucy?
I think I would have to go back to, again, something that my dad used to tell me all the time when I was learning programming, and that was just keep it simple, stupid. Because for me, I used to overcomplicate things a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that's just my like solid thing. If I ever feel myself just going too far with things, I'll just like, nope, keep it simple, stupid. And like delete it all and go back.
Keep it simple. So yes. Well, I have definitely enjoyed this conversation, and I want to say that I definitely would love to have you ladies back, maybe down the road. We can, get together and come up with something else. Of course, I would love to join you on yours and talk about maybe some more women's issues. So during that time, whenever it happens, we can definitely collaborate on that. And so with that, I would like to ask, or just for you to maybe state, like, how can they connect with you all online? Or where can they find you?
So all of our socials are under the same username, same handle. So it's all at Athena W.I.T UK. So Athena W.I.T UK. Or if they do want to email us, then we have a standard email address, which is just info@athenawit.org.uk. And if you send an email to that, then one of us picks it up, like depending on who's available at that time.
Yeah,
we always pick it up pretty quickly. So
sweet. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. And of course, we're going to put all this information in our show notes in regards to this episode, so that those who do want to connect, they'll be able to see that link or see those links in regard to connecting with you both. And so with that, we're just going to go ahead and say this is a wrap. And I want to say again, I appreciate the dynamic duo of Athena W.I.T, Lucy and Stephine. Thank you so much for joining me today. You ladies have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome show on today. Wow. Great conversation. Really enjoyed Miss Lucy and Stephine sharing their knowledge on today. They are definitely doing great things for women in tech and in the UK, and I appreciate them sharing their expertise. I think coming away from this conversation in regards to women in tech, although there are disparities between men and women in IT, every woman is capable of going as far as she wants to go. I think women, ladies, girls, I think that's just something that they should understand, that you can literally go as far as you want to go in tech. Nothing can stop you or hold you back. So that means there's plenty of room for you in IT, so go for it. In regards to imposter syndrome, it's mostly a feeling. And I think what we all have to understand, that it's normal to have these feelings, because most of us actually have these feelings. But you have to know your skills and abilities, and you can't let a feeling make you feel like a fraud. One of the solutions that was shared for imposter syndrome in this conversation was that we have to stop listening to the negative voices in our head. Also, I believe it was Stephine that shared You should find a mentor, a buddy, a friend, or even a community to help you with those feelings that you have. And that should help ease some things or help you in regards to, having those feelings of imposter syndrome. I want to also say in regards to recording this episode, or since we recorded this episode, that Lucy and Stephine have kind of taken a break from social media. So if you were to try to find those social media handles that were shared, you may not be able to find them. Like I said, they've kind of taken a short break to take care of some more personal things in life. It's nothing bad, but I'm hoping that they'll be back real soon on the scene, because their voices are definitely needed out there, and definitely they need to continue to try to help women in tech. So definitely appreciate them and their voices and their work that they're doing in the UK. Want to also say thanks for listening to this episode. And again, if you have enjoyed this episode, would you please consider giving us a review on iTunes? It definitely will help us in our ratings and help others find our show. We appreciate it, and thank you in advance. Well, that about does it for this episode. And until next time, go and do great things. And remember, if you don't do it, someone else will. Thanks for visiting the 24-Hour Boss Podcast. Be sure to visit our site at www.24hrboss.com to be inspired, to learn, and start a side hustle.